Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be looking at a staff which has a very funny name. It is called the Iron Jang Bong, and it has a very beautiful appearance too. Little feathers hanging off it. It's got like gold and gray accents. It's a very pretty little weapon. And it's actually not a bad staff. Unfortunately, it is a staff, and I think that's its main downside. It's just that it is a staff. Unfortunately, most staffs got outclassed very well by a lot of other items. Even back in the day, before rune words, sorceresses were much more likely to put on something like Wall of the Eyeless, and some type of one-handed item which gave plus to skills. But as a staff though, this is actually a pretty good one. And if you were playing a solo self-found sorceress and you found this, it could be useful. The Iron Jang Bong is a war staff, of course, which does mean it takes up the most space absolutely possible in your inventory. It does have 24 to 56 damage, which means it actually hits pretty hard for level 28. And it has a decent amount of durability to a 50, so it won't break relatively quickly if you do decide to bonk things. At level 28, it postures itself toward the end of normal difficulty, but not basically nightmare. I mean, you obviously could use this into nightmare difficulty, but it's not going to necessarily be a nightmare difficulty item. You could definitely utilize this in Act 4 or Act 5, and obviously in the beginning of Act 1 nightmare. The Iron Jang Bong Warstaff does have +2 sorceress skills on it, which is absolutely amazing. Now, unfortunately, due to the fact that you could wear a shield that has +1 and you could wear a weapon that has +1 around this time frame, it's not super duper amazing considering that you're giving up your shield slot for it. It also has 20% faster cast, which is good because if it didn't have faster cast on it, it would probably go straight in the garbage. Most caster type characters are going to want faster cast, at least on something that they're putting in their weapon or shield slot. And without any faster cast, it wouldn't even be considered. It also has plus 100% enhanced damage on here, which is the reason why the damage is actually halfway decent. And then it also has a 50% bonus to attack rating. As you can see, they definitely did intend for you to bonk things with this staff, which almost makes me think it leans a little bit more toward like an enchant sorceress, because you could literally build enchant and then run around bonking things with this. We also have +2 Nova on here, so we are looking at +4 Nova for this staff. We have +2 Blaze, which is another +4, so we get +4 Blaze. And then we also have +3 Frost Nova, so we end up with +5 to Frost Nova. And it's very strange, the skills in this particular item, because they're spread out all over the place. It almost seems like this staff was designed before the synergy bonuses were added, because I can totally see this as being a lot more useful before the synergy bonuses were added. Because if you can imagine, with no synergies, Nova, Blaze, and Frost Nova would all be relatively useful on a level 28 sorceress. And the fact that this would basically give you +4 Nova, +4 Blaze, and +5 Frost Nova is actually pretty sexy, and you could probably utilize that pretty well pre-synergies. However, now that we have the synergy bonuses, it's a little bit less useful because it spreads out the damage too much across basically 3 different trees. You have fire, you have lightning, and you have ice. Now, Frost Nova doesn't really do very much damage, especially unsynergized, and it does unfortunately mean that it's not going to be very relatively useful. Now, you can still use Frost Nova even if you are a non-ice sorceress, and the reason for this is just simply because Frost Nova has such an amazing chilling effect that even against monsters that are way too high HP for you to actually do damage to, it can very easily be a way for you to chill all the monsters nearby, and chilling them will slow them down incredibly and make it much easier for you to kite them. Especially in normal difficulty, where you basically have no penalty to the chill duration. The full chill duration of Frost Nova, which is 21 seconds, actually takes effect here in normal difficulty. So having a free level 5 Frost Nova I'm assuming with other plus the skills you may have, so it may go even higher than level 5, is certainly not a bad thing, and you can tap it every now and then just to slow down the monsters down so they're easier to kite. Frost Nova has always been useful in this way, and even when you were dealing with monsters in Nightmare difficulty, which have less, cold duration, I think it's 50%, it's still useful in those regards. And even if you have Frost Nova on a piece of equipment, Frost Nova is extremely defensive in that way. Like if you find a pair of gloves or a pair of boots that has a chance to proc Frost Nova when struck, Frost Nova can be extremely effective in those situations. Because it will, in the exact situations that you need it, apply that Frost Nova to the targets, chill them, and usually it allows you to get away. Except in this case, you'd have to actually cast it. Now, Nova, on the other hand, is a little less useful if it's unsynergized. So unless you are actually building Nova, it's not really going to do very much for you to have level 5 Nova or level 4 Nova, depending on what's going on here. So it's not really a big deal. Nova costs way too much mana at 25 mana a cast, and if it doesn't actually do enough damage to kill anything, it's not really going to help you out very much. As you can see in normal difficulty, which is where we are right now, I mean, it burns my mana like no tomorrow, and it does okay to kill Eldritch, but very quickly that damage that it outputs won't be very useful at all. And you also have to take into account that I also have more plus to skills than I would normally have at this level. So I'm rocking level 13 Nova. Let me see if I can bring that down to more of an interesting level. Let's take off the Soges, and let's take off the belt, and that brings us down to level 8. So that's more in line with what level the Nova would actually be. And as you can see, it just doesn't really output the kind of damage that you would need. I mean, it will kill things, but it's going to kill things extremely slowly. And then we have Blaze, which, depending or not, like what kind of sorceress you are, you may actually have the synergies for Blaze. So if you're running Warmth, for instance, as a sorceress, maybe you've beefed up Warmth to its maximum, maybe you only have 1 point in it, but whatever's going on, you usually have a couple points in Warmth. And any of those hard points that you have in Warmth will immediately equal extra damage on Blaze, which could potentially make Blaze a little bit more useful than it was before. Also, speaking of pre-synergies and like pre-Diablo 2 Resurrected, Blaze never gave a run-walk speed bonus before. Blaze does give a run-walk speed bonus now. So this will basically give you a free run speed bonus of, what is it right now? We're at level 8, which is 16% run walk. So you do get a nice little 16% run walk bonus if you feel like casting it. And obviously it's going to give you a little bit extra damage too, but it's, unless you're specifically building it, it's not going to be like the most interesting thing. All in all, though, this staff also has plus 30 defense, and of course it has the 50% damage to undead. And it just seems to be kind of like a generic staff. If you're an Ice Sorceress, well, you get Frost Nova. If you're a Fire Sorceress, well, you get Blaze. If you're a Lightning Sorceress, well, you get Nova. If you're none of those things, if you're not a Nova, Blaze, or Frost Nova Sorceress, you still get plus 2 to all skills. And maybe that's not enough, though. And therein lies the issue. Like, this isn't more plus to skills than you could potentially get utilizing, say, like a good shield. Even at this level, which is lower than what you would usually have access to a spirit. Obviously, you can't get a spirit. And you could get a spirit sword, maybe, if you were lucky in the cow level. But you could potentially find this before the cow level, before you ever get there. So we're probably talking about like a +1 or a +2 weapon of some kind, maybe just like, actually, no, I'm gonna restrict it to +1s. We're talking about like a +1 weapon and a +1 shield. It's probably about the best we're going to be able to do. Or you could be using something like Spectral Shard for 50% faster cast. So at its level, it's actually a halfway decent little staff, and it could carry you into Nightmare difficulty until you get your hands on a Spirit Sword and something else. I would probably, though, if it were me, want to use Wall of the Eyeless over this, because Wall of the Atlas has that really nice +5 mana after each kill. Now this also comes in the ethereal version at 36 to 84, and I wasn't gonna upgrade the staves. Most of the staves, by the way, don't have any kind of physical damage mechanic on them. For the most part, when you look at the staves, they're not set up for physical damage. However, the Iron Jang Bong is, and because the Iron Jang Bong is set up for physical damage, we're going to be taking a look at how it upgrades. So let's go ahead and upgrade the War Staff, which of course is going to go to the Rune Staff. And to do that, we're going to need the Ral, Soul, and Perfect Emerald. And this is going to go from 24 to 56 damage, 28 level requirement, normal attack speed, to the Iron Jangbong Rune Staff. And as you can see, let me move myself over to the other side real quick. Bink. As you can see, it changed its appearance. Now it has the appearance of the Skull Collector Staff. If you take a look at the Skull Collector Staff, it's very similar, although it does change the color a little bit. And I believe that even when you go into the character screen, it still shows the Skull Collector Staff. So upgrading it to the second tier actually does give you a very interesting graphical change, almost like a transmog system, because now you have the golden frickin' skull on a stick over here with the, like, I don't even know what the hell these are, little, like, gem tassels. And it also has a very sexy appearance. Now we can upgrade this a second time as well, but let's do the ethereal item first. And one of the things that you have to know is that if you upgrade this a second time, you will lose that Skull Collector appearance. So it will no longer be a giant skull. The ethereal version is going to go from 36 to 84 damage, level 28 normal, to 72 to 174, 15 strength, level 33. As you can see, the damage is actually not half bad on this. At 48 to 116, at level 33, you actually could kill things with this. And the ethereal version is 72 to 174. The rune staves and the archon staves and the war staffs actually usually do have pretty good physical damage. And as some people in chat, I'm sure, will attest, there are actually builds that utilize a like a 6-socket ethereal archon staff. Which is pretty cool. So let's upgrade this to the third tier, which is going to be the Archon Staff. And this is going to go from 48 to 116 damage, 25 strength, level 33, to the Iron Jang Bong Archon Staff, 166 to 198, 34 strength, level 78. Not exactly good enough damage for a two-handed weapon, unfortunately. And it does fall short, unfortunately, at level 78. That is way too low. And then we also have the ethereal version, which can also be upgraded, which is going to go from 72 to 174, 15 strength, level 33, to 248 to 296, 24 strength requirement, and level 78. Now, of course, to utilize this as a melee weapon, though, you would actually have to put a Zod rune in it, which is not something that you would normally do, but that would bring it up to level 81. And now we have the Iron Jang Bong Archon Staff at 248 to 296. And, you know, the damage on that isn't, like, super duper amazing, but it's not, like, as terrible as I thought it was going to be. And I guess used in combination with maybe something like Enchant, elemental damage, and some other things, it could be funny to run around bonking things with an Iron Jang Bong Staff. It's rather silly. I honestly kind of wish they'd bump the damage up a little bit more, just so it would be funny to actually have it as like a viable option for a character. And then like you kill somebody with it, and they're like, "What the hell are you using? Is that a staff?" And they're like, "Yeah, I killed you with the Iron Jang Bong." And they're like, "The Iron what Bong? What the?" Iron Jang Bong Archon Staff. There's one for the record books, boys. You can screenshot that. Let me see if I can get a clean screenshot. I usually forget to do this, so that way when I actually make the video, I can actually get the screenshot, like for the thumbnail. Sometimes my head's in the way. I'm all like, take a look at this item, guys. Like over here, you see this? It clearly says right here above my head that this item has this amount of damage right there, see? Hmm. I mean, all in all, the staff is not a bad staff. If you had this on a sorceress and you didn't have hardly anything else, it would definitely be a lot better than whatever piece of junk you're probably wearing. It could also theoretically be better than a decent leaf staff, depending on what kind of character you are, because leaf staffs are obviously very good, but they're usually only very good for fire classes. And having +2 to all sorceress skills is definitely going to be better than not. Although there are better options around this particular level also, which could potentially be a better choice for a sorceress. It just depends on what you happen to find. And like I said at the beginning of this video, the unfortunate truth about staves in general is that most people don't use them because they'd rather use the sword and shield or the orb and shield or whatever other combo that they have going for them. But all in all, the Iron Jang Bong is certainly not a bad staff. It's just outclassed by a lot of the shields in the game. Let's go take a look real quick on Silo's Pen, and let's see potentially where we could find this item if we want to get our hands on it. And, you know, it occurs to me that with the terror zones coming, Silo's Pen may not be an accurate source of information for much longer. So we may have to find another way to calculate out where items can potentially drop inside the terror zones. And pull this up. Bink. Bink. Well, that is way too big. Way too large. Bring it down, my boys. There we go. Alright, is it the Iron Jang Bong? It is the Iron Jang Bong, not just not just Iron Jang Bong. It is the Iron Jang Bong. Alright, so this is level 28, so let's assume about 100% magic find. I feel like that's fair for once you're getting toward the end of normal difficulty. And we're looking at bosses, non-quest flags, Diablo in normal, 1 in 856, Bale in normal, 1 in 920, and Adnariel in Nightmare, 1 in 1009. A lot of really easy options. I mean, farming Diablo in normal difficulty before you leave is actually a pretty time-honored tradition. Kick his butt a couple times before you hop out the door. And let's take a look at super uniques. Cow King at secret cow level has 1 in 2,633. Neelathak in normal, 1 in 6,191. That's not bad. And Thresh Socket, Pendle Skin, Cold Crow in Nightmare difficulty. It's a little late to be farming this at Nightmare difficulty. I mean, Pendle and Neelathak are already two pretty good options for Nightmare, normal difficulty, so it's fine. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we are smoking bongs. And as always, keep smoking.